Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Debate Club. The Debate Club, as you guys know, is a platform where we all engage in healthy debates and discussions every week. And this week, the topic at hand is the burden of proof always rests on the claimant. Agree or disagree? To set the context, there are two ends of the spectrum on this one. Like the burden of proof always does rest on the claimant, and the burden of proof does not always rest on the claimant. For the pro stance, that is, the burden of proof does always rest on the claimant. The arguments can be made as follows. There is the principle of justice for people, right? To ensure fairness and justice, the claimant must always submit substantial proof and evidence to the legal bodies before they accuse somebody. And that is just to ensure that no false accusations or baseless claims are being made. And then it is logically consistent that a party who is the accusing party, like the person who is making an accusation against the opposition party, should provide some sort of concrete proof so that the baselessness of their words or claims can be ruled out, and the time of the court of justice is also not wasted. And then making sure that the burden of proof always rests on the one who is claiming any such accusation is also helpful in preventing abuse, as a lot of times false accusations, false cases, or whatsoever, like, waste everybody's time, and the person who is being accused is kind of being abuse, like in an indirect manner. Like, once you are a part of a case, even if you're falsely accused, there are like a lot of societal implications that come with it, so that can be avoided. And there is also like encouraging evidence based claims. So if there is like proper implementation of this principle, that the burden of proof has always is always to rest on the claimant, it makes sure that people, before accusing anybody or making any sort of baseless claims, are prone to collecting evidence for whatever they are claiming. And then there is the other end of the spectrum that says the burden of proof does not always rest on the claimant. So for this, your arguments could be based on some sort of situational contexts. Like, there are different contexts, and in all contexts you cannot really expect the claimant to uh, you know um, bear the burden of the proof. Like, for example, in a case of discrimination, or in Indian society, we saw that there is a lot of discrimination based on caste. So in such contexts, it is hard for a victim of discrimination or untouchability to like prove his point, because uh, unlike earlier times, there is some sort of subtle discrimination going on, so it becomes hard for the claimant to bring out some concrete proof. And then always expecting the claimant to bring up some concrete proof or have solid base for their claims may not always be the right way to justice. It leads to a rigid justice system and not a balanced one. For example, if the case is of, let's say, child abuse, you cannot really expect a minor kid who does not even have the maturity to define what abuse is to collect some sort of evidence of abuse against his parents or guardians or whatever, whoever the accused is in the context. And then if it is a case of like the two parties having some sort of significant difference in power, then it is kind of unfair to the vulnerable party to be expected to bring concrete proof against the accused, because now, due to their significant um, power or influence, or let's just say economic hold on a certain something, they might as well just be able to erase the proof before the party gets to the proof. And then there are legal precedents, that legal systems worldwide also recognize various situations where the burden of proof can be shifted based on the specifications of the case, just to ensure that the justice is balanced and not just rigid and one sided. So, with that context in place, I now declare the floor open for debate, and people who wish to speak will have to use the reaction button to raise their hands, and you will be given an opportunity to speak in that order. Thank you. To repeat, if you wish to speak, you'll have to use the reaction button to raise your hand. Nirmal, do you wish to speak?
Yes.
Please go.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm satisfied with the argument that the principle of natural justice should always be laid in every case. First point. Second point, I'm of the view that if a claimant claims or a claimant blames the opposite party that he or she has been abused, then I guess the origin of the problem has been the claimant himself or herself is the origin of the problem. So the burden of proof, but naturally, lies on the claimant because he or she is the one who is saying that either he or she has been abused or has been accused of one thing or second thing. But as all cases are not alike, there are subtle types of discrimination, particularly in Indian society. So where the claimant is not sure or has not that strong evidence or proofs against the party. So in such cases, the judge or anyone, the third party, should take the case in a manner which balances or gives a level playing field to both the parties. But I don't think so that the burden of proof always lies on the claimant. It cannot be a blanket statement.
Thank you, Nirmal. So, Nirmal is of the opinion that depending on the specifications and the context of the case at hand, the burden of proof is not always resting on the claimant. So, thank you so much, Nirmal. Hari, your turn.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, good morning to all. Basically, I would see
Hari,
that.
you're not very audible.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So, yeah, like based on like in the legal system of India, I would not only India, all over the world, I would see that a claimant, whoever makes a claim or allegation on somebody else, is the one who should provide necessary evidence. Because like you easily a false claim has been made, like similar to what Nirmal or you at the preface you have said. So in order to like neglect, because anybody can make any claims, right? Like he made this, he theft my things. It can be anything. So the necessary evidence should be given in a context where that it is related to anything or matter of fact, whatever it is. It is a natural thing I would see. But in the case of an sexual assault or in the case of like minor abuses that is happening to small children who are child girls who are below 18 or those cases. But as you said, like I would agree on with your point completely that they can provide any evidence in that case. But you can see a legal. there is a legal system in our like constitution that there is a POCSO Act. Okay. What the POCSO Act said, you can see easily a POCSO Act will be falling under a person who is made like some assault has been made and the police immediately file a POCSO Act on that person. You can see in this scenario what will happen is that whenever a POCSO Act is fall on a person, so police will like put an FIR. He is a POCSO like accused person, and they will move. That's it. Okay. Police in all other cases, the police should be the one who is collecting the evidence that this person is the one who is convicted or something related. They will be analyzing those what are all the traces or what are all the evidence that can be collected. Let's say a person got been killed and a person has been suspected and he got like caught by the police. Okay, so the police is the responsible one who wanted to collect all the evidence. Okay, that this person is the one who killed the other person, and he should be like convicted in the court, and he will be given a verdict upon whatever sentence that kind. But when a POCSO Act has been fallen under a person, police will just file it and they will keep quiet. They have nothing to do. The person who is been accused, he have to prove that I am innocent. I am not in this place at that time, or I'm not. Okay. So that is what our constitution says. Okay. As you like mentioned prior, that those kind of abuses when happen to a small children, the person who has been accused is the one who wanted to like come up and he have to prove his innocence. So yeah, these are all the things I would like to say. And but at the higher level, except this case, on the other side of all the cases, the person who is making claims should provide an evidence. That's what my things. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Hari. Is there anybody else who would like to speak next? Yes, please, Nirmal.
Yeah, so I guess 90% of cases actually in Indian system, it is like the party is innocent unless he or she is proven guilty, right? So uh, all the cases lies on the same on the this principle that the one who is making the claim uh, and the opposite party will be innocent unless the claimant proves that the accused has been proven guilty or not. So that's it. I guess in Indian system it is innocent unless found guilty.
Right, I think the Indian justice system does follow the principle of innocent until proven guilty. And this is like a general question to all. How far do you think this principle of justice is still valid? Like, is this properly applicable to all cases, or should it be applicable to all cases? Yes, Nirmal.
No, I don't find it correct that this should be applicable to all the cases. As we said, this should be, see, the principle of natural justice says that every case should be dealt with a proper human rational and reason, right? So, if we are satisfied, if a human rational is satisfied that we need to look after a case in which the party is or cannot collect the evidence, then he or she should be given that leverage to prove his case. So it is not like that the claimant should always be handed over the responsibility, the burden of proof to be provided by him or her. So I don't think so that this should be a blanket statement like uh, proven innocent unless proven guilty, and that cannot be a blanket or an absolute statement in any case or every case. Human rational or a principle of natural justice should be acted upon in every case.
Right, I agree with your point, Nirmal. What do you guys think? The rest of you. So, does everybody else think that the principle is kind of applicable to all? May, please go ahead.
I think it depends on who bring the actions. So usually, if the individual bring in actions, or bring a claims against an organization or another individual, they tend to bear the burden of proof. But if the person who bring the action is a government organization or an organization that has a bigger purpose for public interest cases, that's usually the burden of proof is lies on the organization being accused to bear the burden of proof. For example, an environmental organization can claim that a company XYZ was discharging toxic chemical into water, so that would just means that that company XYZ will have to bear the burden of proof as opposed to the environmental organization.
I very much agree with that statement. Like, if the accusation is being made in public interest, I think the accused should be the one presenting the proof. Like, that does make a lot of sense to me. Thank you, May. Anybody else? All right. So moving on, like, how many of you are in this particular topic entertaining the idea of going through different types of cases and discussing how this principle would be applicable? Like, the burden of proof always rests on the claimant, how this would be applicable to that specific case. We could go through like two or three types of cases just to like see what perspectives we all hold. If you agree on doing that, use the reaction button to raise your hands and we could have like a voting session. What about the rest of you guys?
What's your question?
Okay. Oh, the question was that how about we go through like two or three different types of cases and then discuss how this principle of the burden of proof should always rest on the claimant applies to that specific case, just to gather some perspective.
Okay.
Are you up for it?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Like, does any one of you have any sort of case to suggest so we could use that as the first example?
Yeah, I would suggest a murder. Let's start from there.
Okay. So, Hari, it was you, right?
Yeah,
So Hari is suggesting that there's a murder case at hand, and the victim is already, obviously, since it's a murder, is the victim is deceased, and now the case is the accused is the person who is a prime suspect of murder, let's say. So how are we going to approach this? Like, does the burden of proof now rest on the claimant, or the person who is representing the claimant, or the burden of proof lies on the victim to prove himself innocent in the court of law? Raise your hands, please. Yes, please, Nirmal.
Yeah, so this is a very simple and easy case on the topic which we are discussing. So, see, first of all, the cases are based on cause and effect, right? So, in this, the effect is very, very, very visible that the victim is already been murdered. So, hence, it is sure that someone has been there to murder uh, the guy. So, yes, the claimant or the guardian of, let's say, the victim. Would have that upper hand towards the court of law that his friend or her friend has been murdered. So the police or the investigation agency will surely have a soft corner, or just let's say that upper hand over uh, the accused. So the investigation agency will then process without any, second doubts or second thoughts, because the effect is already in front of their eyes. That's the deceased person.
Mm, right. So I think like the question is here that yes, the thing is based on cause and effect, and the effect is quite evident in nature since the victim is already deceased. But the question is that the person who is being accused, is he really the one who has committed the crime? I see Hari trying to speak. Yes, please, Hari.
Yes. So here the person has been, whoever has been accused, he like basically there are two parties, right? One is from the victim side, another one is an accused side. So the accused person has his, the accused person can submit documents and things that he was not at the right at that place at the time of murder that is being committed. So those kind of things can be put in during the exam. Okay. That is the one kind of thing that an accused person can bring up. So that is the only way that he can prove his innocence, that he hasn't committed that crime. That is one of the sides it is being done. So from his side, he can provide only these kind of proof. But in the other side, the victim side, even the police are involved. They are trying to find the traces of the person's accused. Actually, like the accusation has been made first of all because of an evidence that this person that they have in hand some kind of evidence from them, right? So until or otherwise, it is being something. So until or
Hari, if
otherwise,
you're still speaking, your voice got cut off in between.
oh, okay. So yeah, like whatever what I'm trying to say is that during in the side of victim, like police and all the government officials are involved to provide necessary evidence. Okay, in order to prove that this person has committed, we have all the evidence that it can be CCTV camera evidence, or it can be some kind of fingerprint, or it can be anything that is the uh, to show that this person has some kind of vengeance or revenge or something on top of the person who has been victim and a prey of the incident that is may happen. That is one of the case. But on the other hand, in Indian system, I would most in most of the cases I see like in few scenarios religion play a major role, and if money and power might play a major role. If a person who is committing a crime, he might be accused, and he can do all the stuff that he can put his all the things like he can put a money and he can get a well-to-do lawyer like who can turn the case upside down. These kind of things might happen in most of the cases I would see. So yeah, these are all the perspectives I can think of right now. Yeah, I would suggest if anybody has anything to share.
Right, I understand the perspective and insights you just gave, but Quick question, like where do you think the burden of proof lies? Like primarily, like I do understand that the police has its duty to collect evidence before, presenting the accused in the court of law. But where do you think the burden lies primarily in this case?
Yeah, yeah, burden lies obviously on the side of whoever claiming basically that it is lies on the police or the victim side that this person has been committed. It is on the side of like a victim side, like a victim or whoever making the claim that this person has committed. Yeah.
What do you guys think, the rest of you? Yes, please, Nirmal.
I guess this is purely a case for the investigation agency or the police. So if the police thinks that the other person, even the complainant who has complained that this guy or a girl has been murdered, then the police can even try to uh, collect the evidence from the complainant if they eye the person as a suspicion. So this everything this the ball is in the court of the police or the investigation agency. So anyone or anybody they think of that he or she is a suspicious character, then from them they have the full power to collect the necessary evidence or documentary evidence for the case.
Right. Any other perspectives from anybody else?
I think in India, the state being the government represented by the public prosecutor is the one that files charges against the accused in the case of a murder. So it's not anyone who think that um, who think that somebody being murdered can bring any claims. So for a murder case, it's usually the state or the government represented by the public prosecutor. Even the police can't bring a claim. Only the public prosecutor can bring a claim, file charges against the accused.
Right. Thank you so much, May. So I think we all agree that in this particular case, the government and the investigating authorities have a lot of say. And as far as the claims and the filing of charges go, I think the person who is representing the victim in the court of law really has a say in how the case is filed and against whom. But personally, once the case has been filed, I think it really now depends on the person who is accused. The burden lies on that person to gather enough opposing evidence that he or she may not be the one who has actually committed the crime. Like, that's what I personally think. Yeah, like if anybody has anything to add, you can go ahead, or we could move on to some other kind of case. All right, I see that I think this might be the end of discussion for a case that involves like murder. And any other suggestions, any other kind of case that you want to suggest? You could just unmute and suggest if you want.
Ma'am,
Yes, Ramanan.
uh, I I didn't watch the previous sessions and I didn't hear you in so far from 11 a.m. I recently joined after 11:20 only. Uh, did you see the scope from this angle? the manipulated evidence from the opposing candidates. If there is a victim may produce some kind of proof for his case. What if the powered people, the bureaucracy, or the opposing candidates produce the manipulative evidence and opposes the real proof of the victim? Did you guys discuss from this angle?
Not yet, Ramana. That's something very interesting to be discussing. So basically, guys, the thing he's saying is that let's say there is a victim and a defendant, and the crime has actually been committed, and the victim has, provided enough evidence. But in case like there is a difference in power or status or like financial health between the two parties, and what are the chances that the defendant has manipulated the actual proof, like the proof which is actually uh true, and he has manipulated the facts in order to get the ball in his court. I think that's what Ramanan is trying to say
Yeah,
here.
yes, ma'am.
Right. Like that definitely is a possibility when there is some sort of status difference or like a difference in financial backgrounds between the two parties. That is very much possible, and I think that very much also does happen a lot of times. What do you guys think?
Just want to share my thoughts on this. Like nowadays we have a technology is well advanced. Like the person who was accused, like he can show the proof of like GPS coordinates at what the murder time happened. The location of the GPS coordinate he was using his in his mobile. That can be one of the proof he can submit for that. And the call logs and relevant call logs, the murdered guy who was murdered, he will be having a mobile phone data. Through that we can access the person's personal information. Those kind of technological advancement we can prove that the accused can be the anyone. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, definitely that can be very pertinent to a lot of cases. But I'm not sure what perspective I hold about the call logs, but the GPS, right, it shows the location of your device and not the person. Like there is a high probability that this person, if he understands that his GPS can be tracked while investigating getting the case, he might put it in a place where it might be far away from the place of crime or where the crime has been committed, right, just to have an alibi.
And besides that, a commoner could not understand about the GPS the logs and phone logs and GPS coordinates. So they can be easily tricked to believe that they are the wrongdoers. Uh, am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, you are, Ramanan.
Ah, okay, ma'am. Okay.
So what do you guys think,
Uh,
like?
To add that, the person, if he kept his mobile for so long, sometimes he may use his fingerprint to get open. So that fingerprint can be recorded in the mobile. That can be also shown as a proof. Okay, if it's has done that. So nobody can even exactly match a fingerprint to open his mobile. That can be shown as a proof. And if he made some kind of a personal call to someone during that time, and that voice can be recorded from the subscribers of the mobile devices, they can get the data and they can show that also can be as a proof.
Right,
Just one.
that's true. Like to get into more details of a case like this, um let's talk about a case where somebody is being accused of trafficking. What do you guys think? So, like, if the accused in question is, you know, being charged for some sort of trafficking, and let's say their location coordinates are pertinent to the case, how do you think are we going to tackle this, and where do you think the burden of proof lies now? You could just raise your hand and start speaking. I think it was Nitish and Ramanan, right? Ramanan was talking about how data and information can be manipulated, and Nitish was talking about how we can use technology as a form of evidence. So, what do you guys think? I'm like pretty curious to hear your perspectives.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. What I think is, it's possible from the angle like you said. What if the user may use someone's cell, or if he throws his cell to some other area, so they can be easily manipulated. From that angle only, I can be thinking of. Uh, yeah, a trafficking person may have more than one cells, and he can use some other person's registered SIM cards, so that he can be using other phones while trafficking, so that he can't be tracked during those moments, ma'am. And there are some other possibilities of what if a trafficking person uh, gives the trafficking details to some other commoner, and uh, portray them as a normal person being shifted from one place to another place, and make it as a non crime thing, so that the real case is will be um, hard to find where it is being tracked.
Right, the usage of multiple devices for the sake of, like not being caught with your real identity does make a lot of sense to me, Ramanan. Thank you. I believe Nitish was trying to say something.
Yeah, I just want to add, like nowadays, everywhere CCTV access is available. So the person who was under accused can, he can prove that he has traveled at this location and the CCTV has got recorded. Or he maybe use some kind of a Google Pay transactions that can be shown as a proof, or some kind of a internet login he has done that can be shown as a proof. This all kind of a proof he can show that the person who's not available at that particular location. Also, there are some he would have discussed with many people outside, like during that particular time, and the time we can calculate like what at what time the murder happened, at what time the has recorded or shown as a proof in some location, and he may not have the time to travel that location and done the murder. In that point, we can think and show us a proof, the person cannot be the who has done the crime. So that I just want to add on that. Thank you.
Right, that does make sense, Nitish. So I believe, like, in case of the accused being like somebody who is being accused of trafficking, do you guys think now the burden of proof lies on the person who is being accused or the person who is the claimant? Like, where do you think the burden lies now? Like, if you ask me personally, I think in this specific case, it would really lie on the defendant who is being accused here. So they are like now gathering evidence to prove that they are innocent and submitting alibis. What perspectives do you guys hold? What do you think, Nirmal? Nirmal, Hari.
I guess if one claims that a person is trafficking, then I guess the first instance, the claimant would be asked for the proof that on what basis he's claiming or on what basis he's making his point. Once he has made his point and it is very well uh, genuine and you can say that very well you know proper to the human rational, then yes, the rest of the case, it will be the accused who has to defend himself or herself, the for the accusations that are made against himself. But again, at primarily, it will be the claimant who has at least to make his or her point clear. He has to provide at least some proof that we can't just say that that person is performing human trafficking and just arrest and put him behind the bars. But at least for primarily, the claimant has to provide some uh, very primitive, or you can say very raw proofs that I have seen him this that this is the proof. See, these are the he is making the human trafficking or he is performing this exercise or etc etc.
Right. That does make a lot of sense. And I think, yes, like as long as the claimant's statements and presented evidence are like aligning with general human rationale, I think post that scenario, I think all the burden of proof now lies on the defendant to make sure that he proves himself innocent. Um, I think we have already sort of indirectly addressed the case of child abuse. I think somebody talked about the POSCO Act. I don't remember who it was. So I think we could skip that topic since a lot of procedure for how cases are investigated and addressed in the case of child abuse or anything related to victims who are minors are taken care of. So the I'd like to suggest a category of a case which might be a little controversial. It already is quite controversial, especially on social media. Are you guys open to discussing cases of sexual assault? Like, there are a lot of genuine cases which cannot be proved, but there are also a lot of false accusations. So, people who are up to discuss can raise their hands and we could see if we can discuss. Atharva, Hari, Nirmal, Nitish, Ramanan, what do you think?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
this
mean,
I see. I think there is a general consensus for agreement.
also like when there is some sort of case reversal. Like I was thinking, not just harassment in corporate, but um, like some sort of wrongful termination, and then defamation happens back. Then the shift happens on the victim. So, in the similar line, I think this is also the case. Like
Mhm.
defamation.
Yeah, we could discuss that one too.
Yeah.
Like, let's address the cases of sexual assault where most are genuine, but we cannot really tell which are false ones for most part. And then later on, we will move on to discuss the case suggested by Atharva, which is like defamation and wrongful termination, especially in corporate places. Did I get that right, Atharva?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. So basically, like sexual assault is like quite a controversial category of lawsuits, right? Where people are sometimes very torn between what's genuine and what's not, especially in times where the victim cannot really provide substantial proof, or when the victim comes out to speak about it after a while has passed. So, if you have any perspective on such cases, now's the time to put it out there.
Uh, Ma'am, here the burden of proof should lies within the defendant. That's what I think the most um, suitable one. I think because the victim will be in a position not to speak up. Most of the cases in sexual assault would not be reported in India. So the government should encourage and the burden of proof should be made to be given by the defendant, ma'am. And besides that, uh, if the victim is the one who is raising the case, she should uh, produce evidence in some cases, I think so. So she might be um, aware in using some modern technologies. There are some apps like I am safe org, which I am not I'm safe org, which is I am safe, where they can produce the images in the where the camera can be run in the background so that they can take the images of the harasser. uh, so she could be using some modern technologies to prove her side that the case is real. Um, Beyond that, I couldn't know a lot, ma'am.
Thank you for the perspective, Ramanan. What do the rest of you guys think? Yes, please, Nirmal.
Yeah, so when we are talking about a case regarding sexual assault, then I think that it becomes a very sensitive case when this case is brought up against any party or say a government. So a government or an investigating agency can never ask for evidence from the one who is accusing a person, or can never ask for an evidence from the victim, be it a girl or a boy. So it's a gender equal situation for me, at least. So yes, being a sensitive case, uh, the victim has an upper hand because see, it's all about dignity, it's all about self-respect. A police or a government investigation agency cannot ask from the victim that okay, provide me with the proof that you have been sexually assaulted, provide me with an evidence that you are sexually assaulted. It's against the basic nature of human dignity. So the police or the investigation agency will naturally be beside the victim and will support him or her to trace out the case. And if I am saying if uh, there's a doubt in the agency investigation agency that the victim is being falsely accusing the people, then only in such cases, which again in my opinion may be very less, only then as a last resort they can ask for evidence from the victim, only then.
That's a very balanced perspective, Nirmal. I kind of, no, I actually totally agree with that. Like, of course, the investigating authorities and the legal authorities would somewhat empathize or have some sort of general sympathy for the victim, because it is fundamentally a violation of somebody's dignity and self-respect. And unless this victim or the person who is accusing the other party has a history or a record of making false accusations against people, not just with regard to sexual assault, like false accusations regarding anything, like maybe domestic violence, or I don't know, dowry, or some, even some sort of like um where there has been some sort of accident and there was like a huge damage to property, and the actual fault was of the victim, but they have been known to shift the blame and accuse somebody else. I think that kind of history is the only justifiable reason where you would cross question the victim or expect the victim to bear the burden of proof instead of the accused. Like that really was something, a very balanced approach, I would say. So thank you. What do the rest of you think? Yes, Nitish.
Um, I have from a different perspective of sexual assault. Like only in a country like India, we are mostly speaking about this. So I feel like in developed countries, if you see that this kind of cases are very less, and the main problem is like we are genetically feel like after 18 years old, we are hormones get changed. So I feel like our country culture is stopping us, get emotionally attached with anyone because of this. The sexual assault can happen. That point I think it as a valid reason. If you go other countries like after 18 years old, the person who want to stay together wherever they want to go, nobody will question it. But in our country, like even the recent cases like Oyo has. Planned it like if after 18 years old, if you want to book a room in a hotel, like the OYO is not allowing it. They have to show all the proof. They have married. All these kind of things were happening only in country like India. This can be the main reason for one of the sexual assault can be it happen that can one person is not able to control his feelings, like he has to depend his pleasure to opponent, like he will be in a trouble situation, and he will be desperate, and that time can get happen. That also the reason, like the government has to put like certain laws to be put into the people, like how this can be get avoided. So I just want to add this point. And coming to the sexual assault, like the cases, nobody cannot have a proof of this. Maybe the girls, while intentionally they will do it, like they feel very interested, and during one point of time, they have a certain kind of argument happens, and that time it can trigger the girl's mood, and it can go into some kind of different situation. So later they can come into argument, and they can accuse that this can be the fault from the opponent. So just want to add this kind of thoughts to this, because I'm not very clear on that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nitish. I don't know, like the things you talked about, like the factors that contribute to the causes of such cases happening. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I am not informed enough to talk about I don't know, not being able to control urges on, like, on behalf of somebody who is doing such things. Like, even if that is the case, I don't think it makes assault any less of a crime. Like, that is what I have to say. And the rest of it, I don't think I'm informed enough to talk about right now. um are you still trying to speak, Nitish, because your hand is still raised?
Done speaking. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you. So, in all, I think I forgot who it was, but one of the previous speakers saying that usually the burden of proof in this case lies on the defendant, but it should be taken into consideration that the case might be a false accusation if the person who is making the claim has some sort of history of engaging in false accusations of sorts. In that case, the burden of proof should also lie on the victim. I think I agree with that approach very much. So there's that. And I think Atharva had suggested a topic of, like, corporate cases, let's say wrongful termination of employees or defamation at the workplace. Atharva, would you like to give us like a couple of situations and explain to us in what context you want this discussion to go?
Oh, yeah, sure. So, let's say an employee is like um, mm, terminated for some reason, and then uh, like impersonation or some sort of let's say, and then she is the victim currently, but the case can shift back, or like on defamation as well. If you get like she can I'm sorry, let me just Oh, sorry. So, yeah, she's terminated, but then there can be cases like uh, she files for wrongful termination, and then on whom will be the burden. And also, there are scenarios where the CEO can file for defamation, things like that.
Right. So what you're trying to say is, let's say some employee has been terminated and they feel that the termination was not justified and they file for wrongful termination. But as a response to such a case, the company or the CEO, let's say, can counter file for defamation. Is that what you're trying to say? Or are you talking about two completely different cases?
Uh, no, yeah, this is like one. This can be one scenario. Uh,
So, like, you're
yes,
talking about filing of a counter case, like,
yes, yes, yes.
okay, right. So now let's say the employee has filed for wrongful termination, but now the organization thinks that this is an attempt to ruin the reputation of the company, and they have filed for defamation against the person who had initially filed for wrongful termination. So, any perspectives, you guys? Like personally, I think like in case of in case of wrongful termination filed by this employee, they would have to provide enough proof that they have not misbehaved or consistently underperformed or misused the resources of the company, haven't uh, haven't like gone beyond the limits of an NDA if they have signed one and sent out confidential information of the organization to somewhere, some other party, some third party, basically. So I think in this particular case, like if the person has to like file for wrongful termination, they would have to give enough evidence to prove that they have not displayed any behavior that would call for a termination. Personally, what do you guys think, like just in case of the termination part? Ramanan, Hari, Nirmal, Nitish.
Ma'am, how can a employer can produce an evidence that they are being good enough in a firm where they are being accused? Because if the CEO or the management wishes the employee to not continue his work, he may produce many kind of falsify evidence, and they may clearly outweigh the employee because they have a larger say in a firm they are running. They may uh, ask the people or ask the employees on their hands to voice out against that particular victim employee, so that they can be in a position like a shark, so that they can't the victim can't uh, produce enough evidence that he is a really good guy. What happens in this situation, ma'am?
Like it definitely is possible, but it is also
uh,
kind of unlikely because I think that would create a sort of insecurity among the other employees. Like if they are even asked by the management to falsely testify against this person who has been terminated, it would, I think, some sort of trigger an insecurity among those employees that this might happen to me tomorrow, right? Like I could be terminated wrongfully tomorrow, and then if I were to take legal action, like this might be me tomorrow in the shoes of the person like who has filed for wrongful termination. That's what I think. Nitish, I see you raising your hand. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree
Ma'am,
with him. Yeah.
one more perspective I need to add, ma'am, which is that in a corporate environment, the formation of union is like rising a communism politics within a firm. Like that they will be seeing if more than 2 or 3 people joins and speak up against the firm, they will be immediately started planning to terminate those employees. This is the kind of situation in most of the corporate environments in India and most of the Western corporates which are being adopted all over the world. In that scenario, the employees will be having lower hand in most of the cases.
Right. Nitish, you were saying something.
Yeah, I just agree with him. See, if company wants to terminate any of the employee, they can, one person is working on any job, they can do the job shift, okay, and they will not be assigning the proper work, and the managers knows that some kind of a difficult task can be given to him, so that his performance can be questioned. So this can happen to many corporate when it's like the person's skills, it's against his skills, and then he try to perform and that not providing proper support for him, then it can be easily falsified. So strategy is using by many of the managers, many of the corporate. If they are not liking some employees for a specific reason, they are continuously doing it. That point I just want to add. Yeah, thank you.
Right, I kind of do agree. Like, even like giving, even this is, I think, a more extreme case where they are given roles that don't align with their skills, so they perform badly, and that becomes an excuse to terminate them. Most of the times, things are seen where employees are put in situations that become like super stressful to them, or they are involved in unnecessary office politics where they are kind of cornered, but in a very subtle manner, so they are forced to resign and the employer is not even actually terminating them. That could be another case too. Like, this is, I think, a more common.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. And besides that, yesterday also there was a large layoff in Infosys, where there was an agreement between the freshly joined employees and the firm. They will be conducting some sort of regular internal assessments. In that, those who doesn't perform well, they will be immediately terminated. In that contract, if the person signs, then only he will be joined. Like that, there are some sort of around 30,000 employees, or I don't know the exact count of number of employees being terminated. um, there was a large layoff. In that, the question paper was very difficult to answer for a fresher. Likewise, the performance tests are being misused by the corporate world.
Right. So, like, after hearing all such perspectives, what I personally think is that while filing for wrongful termination, the employee has to provide some substantial proof of having proper conduct and performance with the organization and abiding by all the terms of his employment contract, given that they don't go to harm the, I don't know, they, as long as they don't harm the employee directly, the terms of employment. And when the case is filed, I think then the burden lies on the employer to prove that the termination was not wrongful indeed. Like, of course, like in this case, the whole point of manipulation of records and stuff comes in, but that's how I think about it. If you have anything to add, you can go ahead. Yes, Nitish.
To add that, when this happens to an employee, the termination or Infosys, 700 people almost laid off. They start beginning their career, and immediately when they heard about this kind of termination, his life will be totally under question. He'll be in a totally question, and his confidence level gets start losing in his life, because once the new joinees get into the job, the family will be happy, and he will be informing to many people, I have joined this kind of company. And then immediately when they try to terminate, his confidence level will come out, and there are a lot of Indian society where like bind with a lot of family feelings, and everyone comes to know the person's the approach to the society will be totally changed, and later this kind of create a kind of a not a good character maybe to its society, and he may try to get into politics or this kind of environment when he joined the other company. This can harm the environment. So if Infosys want to lay off, like initially itself, they have to conduct some kind of a test before joining to the company, or else they have to tell like this is only a training period or internship. And once the internship is totally proven that he's capable to do the job, then they have to shift it as an employee. So just I want to add this point. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Like now, I think we could move on to discussing the defamation. Now, let's say this wrongful termination has been settled in favor of either party. Like you could just assume whatever party won the case, but now the firm is countersuing the employee who had filed for wrongful termination earlier, because they feel like the employee was trying to target their reputation. Now, what do you think? Hari, Nitish, Ramanan?
No, I didn't get your point. Can you repeat that?
So you did understand the whole case for wrongful termination, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Now the case has been settled in whatever, let's say it was settled in favor of the employee, right? But now, once that case is settled or the case has been won by the employee, now the firm, right, who was sued for wrongful termination is counter suing the employee for defamation, because they feel like this was all done for creating a controversy and ruining the reputation of the firm.
Uh, yeah, still in the case of defamation case, I see uh, the company or the firm which is being accusing the other person who put basically their ex-employee. So the firm has now the burden of proof. They have to submit all the things that they have to in order to showcase that this person has been done because of their reputation related thing. But I would
Right.
see, I still see that in the even in this case, the claimant has to be submit all those things. The defendant has to be just like he can provide on his side, but still, I feel that the burden of proof still lies on the claimant. Again.
Right. In this case, I am also of the same opinion that the burden lies on the claimant here, which is the organization. Nitish and Ramanan, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I am also in that opinion only, ma'am. If the firm is having a solid evidence, like uh, if the employee has given some negative reviews or falsified reviews in some online mediums, or if he directly say or said some kind of a charge to the employment in social media, they can be framed and given as a evidence by the firm. In that situation, the burden of proof will lies in the firm only, because they are only accusing against the employee. Uh, if they don't have a solid evidence as like the social medias or some kind of reviews, they can't initiate the charging, ma'am, because even if the employee is saying as a word to some other friends or some other co-employees, they can't be charged, because the employees other employees, if only in the case of other employees being revealing the real scenario, they will be accused. Otherwise, they can't be accused, ma'am.
Hmm. Right. I do understand your point, Ramanan, and it's, yeah, quite right. What about you, Nitish?
Once this case is settled, like some kind of a juggles happened in the society or the news got spread everywhere. So those can be deleted. They can approach the people who are put a bad review or anything about that. Once the case is settled, they can inform them to delete that because of the emotions those people would have undergone. They would have passed on all the messages. And once the bad reputation happens, it's very difficult to change it, and they have to come with some kind of a strategy to approach the people, and they can come to the society video or some kind of changes they have to do it. It's like very controversy. Once the reputation spoiled, it's very difficult to get it back. So only thing is like can delete all this information passing, whatever is happening in the circle. What my opinion. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
see.
understand. In that case, if the like he is saying, if the reputation of the firm is being destroyed, the firm will tries a lot to regain the reputation, and they will be deleting those fake reviews and what and all those fake information being uploaded. Uh, I'm also currently working in an organization where they are met with a situation. There are some fake reviews and falsified accuses. They have deleted those scenarios and they are regaining their reputation uh, by bringing some kind of new changes in their firm. But most of the changes they are being created is not creating the perfect positive environment. It's like a positive environment they are trying to create, but it is mostly like an artificial one. I accuse those things also, and I'm currently in a situation they are being accused for the kind of situation. I am accusing the management for uh, their promotion. Uh, I have said a lot. Like what I had told is uh, your
Yeah.
organization has lost their reputation. They are
One second,
claiming
let him complete, Nitish.
the organization has lost its reputation. They are regaining it through some ways. If I oppose it, they will be blame me and try to corner me in all possible ways to to create a situation that I am wrong.
All right, thank you, Ramanan. Nitish, please go ahead.
One thing it can be easily the reputation can be gained is like they can give some kind of a bonus to the employees who has undergone this kind of a trouble or some extra salary, and they can promote the people, or this kind of they can have a direct approach to the employees in a conference room, and they can tell these are the strategy they underwent, and then they can give some kind of a 2 month additional bonus to them because of the struggles they gone through during that time. So this will create a positive environment within the company also, or the society. They can start spreading the news. That kind of strategy only we can make the regain the value to the company. Yeah.
Right. So it's like almost time to wind up. So we have discussed quite a few cases where we did discuss about what the nature of the case is, how it should be ideally tackled, and where the burden of proof should lie based upon the specifications of the case. So, based on all the perspectives you shared and heard today, let's start making our concluding statements, and then we can wind up. And post 12:30, if you still wish to stay for an unmoderated session, you can do so, but the unmoderated session will be more of a discussion and it will not be recorded. So, any concluding statements? Now is the time. Trying to say something, Hari? Yes, please.
Shall I?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, like you can see from the first, starting from our meeting until or whatever the cases we have discussed, whatever things that we are brainstormed and those kind of stuff. In most of the scenarios, in my perspective, I saw that like uh, as our topic suggests, the claimant has is the one who needs to provide sufficient evidence that that is more that will bring up to a conclusion that the person, whoever he is accusing, the claimant who is claiming that this person has committed something upon me and I am got affected. So in that case, the claimant the burden of proof falls on the side of claimant in most of the cases, not all the cases, but most of the cases it's for falls under the in the claimant side. That's what I can say. Yeah.
Thank you, Hari, Nitish, and Ramanan. Any concluding statements from your side?
Uh, the burden of proof should lies within the should be in a relative approach manner. Should be approached in a relative manner. Those cases which are favored and um, being misused, they should be given to the victim or the defendant who can be really good. So it should be in a relative manner.
Right. Thank you, Ramanan. Nitish?
My opinion is truth always wins. If a person is not committed a crime or not done anything wrong, there are thousands chances that can prove that he has not done it. So always like even one accused can get escape from the law, but that person who is not done any crime should not be get into some kind of trap. So that's what I don't know the logically how to talk about that. I know my
Mm-hmm.
mother tongue, ஆயிரம் குத்தவாளி வேணாலும் தப்பிக்கலாம், ஆனா ஒரு குத்தவாளியும் ஒரு நல்லவன் தண்டிக்க கூடாது. That means that
Therapy.
uh, yeah, that word is there. Yeah, that's I just want to tell that. Yeah, thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Nitish. So, the concluding statement from my side would be, since we have discussed so much about types of cases, the power struggle between the two parties involved, all these factors which are like variables in how the case goes, what direction it takes, who might be favored, like depending on all these, the burden of proof should always rest on either party. Like, it really depends, right? Because what I believe is the approach we have towards justice should be a balanced and a flexible one instead of a rigid one. Like, instead of like the burden of proof always lying on the victim or always lying on the defendant, other variable factors that are involved in the case should be taken into consideration before determining the burden of proof lies on whom, or sometimes both, partially, like that is what I had to say. Before we wind up, like I have a very short announcement to make. It is that the debate club is partnering with Event to organize a Rome International MUN, which is a MUN competition, and it will be held on. One second, guys. So basically, you guys, I hope you know what an MUN is, right? It is an abbreviation for Model United Nations. So we are partnering with Event to conduct the Rome International MUN, which will be held on 15th and 16th of March 2025. The timings would be 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. on both the days. And if you are interested, you will find the link in the WhatsApp group, and the registration fees will be 1,500 rupees INR. And if you manage to bag the prices, the first prize is rupees 5,000, and the second prize will be rupees 2,500. So I am excited to see you there, and thank you for being here today. I will see you in the next session. Bye, guys.
Thank you, ma'am.